Hey everyone! Today I'm going to give you a tutorial covering that angle brace to help you and introduce you a little more to using global variables and to get this sketch and feature completed.
So I just went in and selected a new part. I'm going to make sure I'm in millimeters, which I am, and I'm going to sketch this on the front plane. I'm going to start by just making my simple design, and then we'll put in our equations. We are going to learn how to do an equation-driven part today. So the key to this is your side legs, only one of them need to have a relationship. So you can have the bottom be set at a horizontal relationship, or this straight up and down one be at a vertical, but you cannot have both because your overall angle of A1 will be changing. So I'm going to make my bottom line segment have a horizontal relationship. I'm going to add in this other line segment kind of to be just a little off. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in my arc. Now I am going to create a center point arc because I want my center point to be right at my origin as well. And hit OK. I'm going to zoom in because you can see these endpoints didn't snap together, and just make sure they're all snapped together. Alright, now since we have our basic dimension, I'm going to add in my 3 circles. And to help myself give my dimensions when we start putting them in, I'm going to add in my center lines so I have a reference line to each of my circles from my origin. This is so I can dimension them with their angle and their distance and not have any issues with that. So once you're here, now we're going to start with our equations. So you want to go up to File or your Tool tab, over to Tools, and go down to Equations. Then this will pop up. You don't need to mess with the features or the equations area. SOLIDWORKS automatically puts those in when a global variable that you've used or an equation is used. So we do want to add in some global variables. So I'm just going to click Add Global Variable. I don't need to do any of the formulas. SOLIDWORKS will automatically do that. And I'm just going to go through what I'm given. So I'm given an A1. I'm going to tab over, and you see how it automatically came up with quotations. A1 is set at 90 degrees. Then I'm going to hit enter. It will automatically bring out the evaluates too. Next, I'm going to go ahead and select, I'm going to just have an R1. The reason I'm not doing A2, A3, and A4 is because I want to show you how to smart dimension using an equation, and that's where we'll have our given value of A1 divided by 4. So I'm just going to put in my fixed sizes or my driving dimensions right now. So R1, I'm going to tab over, and R1 equals 100. And then I'm not going to change the units since my whole part document is in millimeters, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put in my D1, tab over. Now D1 equals my R1, so I'm going to select R1 divided by 8 and hit enter. Next, I'm going to put in my P1. This is a fixed size at 8. Go ahead and hit OK. So it says we just want to solve for our A1 being 90 degrees or 130, so I'll just change that when I'm done designing my whole part. And we want to solve for R1 also being at 80 instead of 100. So as long as you have your A1, R1, D1, and P1 all listed right here, go ahead and hit OK. Once you create equations, this equation tab will pop up. You can right click on it and go to Manage Equations and change any of your values that way instead of going through your toolbar the entire time. I'm going to go ahead and open my sketch again. And now I'm going to start dimensioning this. So to begin with, I'm going to dimension my A1. So remember, we don't want the angle of just our arc to change. We want these line segments to be able to change. So I'm going to put my angle between both those line segments. I'm going to bring that out. When you are using a global variable, you always need to hit the equals sign to pop up your drop down arrow or menu. And I'm going to select my global variable of A1. It automatically will be blue and in quotations as long as you have that equal sign. Then hit OK. If you're worried that you're not using your global variables correctly, you can always see if you are using a global variable because the summation sign will be in front of it. So there's my A1. I'm going to work my way over. So I'm going to put in my angle right here for A2. So I'm going to select this line segment and my center mark and bring it out right here. This is going to equal, put my equal sign in, A1 and then divide by 4. We don't need parentheses or anything unless we have a longer equation. Go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to add in my angle between these two values as well. That's going to be equals, then your global variables, A1 divided by 4. Hit OK. I'm not putting in a relationship just because I am dealing with an angle and I want all of these to move according to what the length of this A1 is. So this will just make sure that we don't have any mistakes. Relationships are always great, but sometimes for more smaller angles, stuff like this that involves equations, it's better just to put them in yourself. So this third dimension, I'm going to select my equals sign, global variable of A1 divided by 4, and hit OK. So now I have my A1, 2, A3, and A4. Now I'm going to dimension my D1, which is just my diameter. So I'm going to have this equals, then my global variable, which is D1, and hit OK. Now, it does say D2 is equal to D1, and D3 is equal to D1 as well. So then I'm going to go ahead and add in an equals relationship. So I'm going to hold Control down and select all three circles, and hit equals. Now my diameter is all the same, and I only had to put it in one time. You can see I have a summation sign in front of each of these values, showing that I am using my equations. There's just no way to put that value so you can see it easily. Move these out. Alright, so now I need to go ahead and add in my R2, which is this distance right here, and my R1. So I'm going to smart dimension. I'm going to start with R1, bring this over, and it's going to be equals global variable of R1 and hit OK. I'm going to add in this value and I'm coming out parallel to the line, and that one's going to be equals, my global variable is R2, which R2 is R1 times 0.75. Go ahead and hit enter. Now you can see it brought that up. So I could go ahead and add in a relationship between these three lines to have them be equal and hit OK. So now that my part is all dimensioned, I'm just going to try to make these dimensions a little more clear for you to see. I have my A1, A2, A3, A4. I have my R1, R2, which is the same length for all of these. Then I have my D1, D2, and D3, and they're all the same size. So now I can go ahead and make my extrude. So I'm going to go up to the Features tab I'm going to hit the extruded base/boss. In your features, you can also do equations. So right here, I'm going to select equals, then my global variable, and it's P1 because we have it being a fixed extrude. Then I'm going to hit OK. So now you can see this part is finished. So once you have your part finished, go ahead and save it as angle brace. So now that we have the whole part built, it wants us to solve for A1 being 130 degrees and R1 being 80 degrees. So that's where we get to play with our equations. Since everything is referenced in an equation or global variable, we can change those two values and everything will update accordingly. So remember to right click on equations, go to manage equations. I'm going to go ahead and change this 90 to 130. And then I'm going to change my R1 from 100 to 80. Then I'm going to hit OK. You can see that my part got a larger A1, so a wider angle. I can go into the sketch and you can see that it's still fully defined. This is now changed to 80 where it was 100 before. This is changed to 130 where it was 90, and all the values have changed with it because they were all referencing another value or a fixed value we put in. So everything should stay fully defined. If you have an error, go ahead and make sure you only have a horizontal relationship on this line or a vertical on this line, but not on both. And make sure you have everything else set equals to each other within the inside, and all of these values are set to what you're given in your homework. If you have any questions, please let me know.